Hey everybody, welcome to this Caregiver Coffee. My name is Matthew Estrad. I'm a gerontologist in St. Tammany Parish, and I've been partnering with the Council on Aging in St. Tammany for over 10 years. All of that time as the caregiver support group facilitator each week. And then for half of that time, for a little over 5 years, been bringing you Caregiver Coffee videos just like this one, just information on aging, on caregiving, on life's transitions. So I'm so glad that you joined us today. We're going to be talking about moving, if you're a caregiver, how to help move an older parent or friend, or maybe you're an older adult and you're moving or considering moving, and it just seems very overwhelming, which it probably is for most people, moving from even from an apartment to another place, a lot of possessions and everything. So we'll be talking about that, but focused on older adults. Although we're going to be talking about principles that can, I think, most people can benefit from. So I'll be taking from this information from two articles that I'll post in the description on Facebook. And hopefully in the future, we'll be able to post links within the description on YouTube. So just maybe by this time it's added. So we in the previous video, if you're watching these in order, we talked about long distance caregiving, but we know sometimes the older adult may need to move locally or move to a different state or even move into a care community like a nursing home or assisted living, and such. So this is a good checklist. These are good checklists and things to think about if you are considering moving. And I'm going to try to go through it pretty quickly and cover everything within the 12 minutes that I have remaining. And like I said, I'll have the links so you'll be able to look at these, print them out if you want to. And a lot of these things are going to make sense. But I think having a checklist is, there's a lot to be said for a checklist because you don't have to remember things and you kind of just like literally just line through and check off things as you go. Before we get into that, just want to briefly tell you about our caregiver support group. If you've seen previous videos, you've heard the long spiel. I'll try to be quick in this one, but we meet every Tuesday of the year, unless that Tuesday falls on, I'm sorry, unless Christmas or Christmas Eve falls on that Tuesday. And of course, Fat Tuesday, we don't meet on that day. But typically, we don't cancel, we just move to later in the week. Although cancellations do happen rarely. And so I recommend that you go to coastseniors.org and you go to caregiver services and you find my picture, and there you'll see a 2 month calendar. It's a PDF that covers 2 months, the most recent 2 months, and you'll be able to see where we are. But basically, the first Tuesday we're in person in Slidell at the Activity Center. The next week we are virtual on Zoom. The next Tuesday, so the third Tuesday of the month, we're at the Covington Senior Activity Center, and then the fourth Tuesday, and sometimes the fifth Tuesday, we're virtual again. So we have a mix of in person and virtual. We have some people that have gone to all four, or some that only do virtual, or some that only do Slidell. So you just find whatever mix is helpful for you. And you know what, if you want to come every other month, you know, you just drop in. You don't have to make reservations or anything like that. So we're always very welcoming to new folks, and we encourage you to try us out and to tell others about it. All right, let's get into this topic. So I'm going from through an article, 10 tips for moving an elderly parent on moving.com. This is a pretty good website that I've consulted for, not consulted for, but I've gone there for information, for when considering a move, just looking at all the things that are involved. And it's a lot. So these are some tips to consider. And I won't go through everything. So just know that I'm not covering everything. If you hear some things that are interesting, go to that article so you can get everything, get all the benefits from it. And remember, these are just tips. You have to see how these apply to your situation, you and your parents' temperament and personality, because you may have some different opinions on this, and you can post those in the comments as well, your opinions on what you think about it. All right, the first thing they suggest is to plan using a blueprint of the new home, or it could be the new room also. if it's going into memory care or something like that. Measure the large furniture, map out the layout of the room or rooms, create a list of essential items, things that are important for that older adult. You want to think about sentimental things. Many times, a facility or care community will let you bring in the furniture, some of the bed if there's room, a recliner if there's room, a chest of drawers, mirrors, things like that. So because what you're trying to do basically is have as many familiar objects as possible in there. I'm not sure how feasible this is if it's a nursing home, because if it's a nursing home, you might be sharing, they might be sharing a room with someone. So space might be an issue if it's a nursing home. So these are all things you have to consider. But the more familiar things that you can have, the better. Um, Declutter and downsize. Great advice, even if you're not an older adult. I could stand to declutter and downsize. So you have categories you need to think about. Think about the things that you have. So keep things, donate. You could sell, you can store, or you can discard. So I'll go over those again. You can keep, donate, sell, store, discard. And sometimes it might be, sort of a process where you go through things and then you got to go through it again. At least that's what I do, because some things I'm not sure if I want to keep it, if I want to discard it, if I wanted to sell it, etc. There's a cost to many of these things. There's a cost to keeping things. There's a cost to donating, going to drop things off or getting it picked up. There's a cost in selling things, and with respect to time, storing things, that's still moving something, but then you probably have to pay for the storage. Um, yeah, so and if you have a lot of stuff, you might have to bring a larger trash bin on site, maybe even a small dumpster, depending on how much you have. They recommend using the 1 year rule. If an item hasn't been used in over a year, consider letting go. Take photos of sentimental items if space is limited, and you can really just, you can only save so many things. I like this idea. I've done this before, taking pictures of things, of posters of art that's been created by somebody in the family. Although we still have a lot of that stuff, nice stuff. You can get professional help. You can call someone in to kind of help you declutter and think about things and challenge you on some things. But ultimately, you should have the say on what you keep. The 1 year rule, so as someone who constantly fixes things around the home, sometimes I might not use a plumbing tool, for instance, particular, pipe cutting or, something like that, um, or a wrench. I might not use that for a year, and that's a great thing. So, but those are small items too. They don't, they kind of pack into a small amount of space. So, I understand the 1 year rule. I think it's a good thing to consider, but I don't always follow that, because I don't think it's always prudent, especially if it's something I may be using in the future as a homeowner, that I'm going to use myself or even loan a family member or friend. Number three, donate or consign excess belongings. So there's plenty of, I don't need to list them, but there's plenty of places that you can drop off. There are organizations, nonprofit organizations that will pick up, and you just schedule the delivery. Um, there are consignment places in most areas. Certainly in St. Tammany Parish, there are consignment places. Number four, use junk removal service. And here, I won't list them, but they have, there's a number of companies that will come pick up large items that maybe your trash company will not pick up. It's great when the trash company will, but it's inconvenient sometimes, and they seem to be changing the rules of what they pick up and what they don't. But there are companies that have emerged, that you can pay to have things picked up. You can rent a storage unit. Of course, there are many places, storage places, probably wherever you live, there's probably ample places. There's costs and benefits to that. You know, you got to think about how long you can possibly store or why you want to store something and if you're going to use it in the future, etc. So, number six, you can enlist family members to help, which is really good. They can help with actually moving things. They can help you with labeling things, boxing, taping, things like that. They can kind of, be there for companionship and, for laughs and uh, picking up pizza or, but and speaking of that, help out, do something nice for those who show up and help you, get them lunch, have them, hydrated, etc. So think about having family members help and passing a good time. Arrange travel ahead of time. Flights, we could have a whole video about, contacting the airline for wheelchair assistance and accommodations through TSA and with the actual airline. For car travel, choose comfortable, easy access vehicles, minivans, crossovers, sometimes sedans, etc. Plan for rest stops, like plan them up on the map, and if you need to stop more frequently, you got that too. Pack snacks and things like that in the car. Um, Find a new doctor if you're moving to a new city or community. It's possible, well, you would have to find a new provider, a new primary care physician, and other physicians. You'll need to set up medical records, like getting medical records transferred to that new place, moving prescriptions to another place, considering telehealth if you want to stick with that particular provider, if they are licensed in the state where you are moving to. So that's something to consider too. There's always an option of hiring professional movers. Um, I have never done that before. I imagine there are some good deals to be had out there, and certainly if you shop around and then remember to look at online reviews and ask others about certain moving companies to see what they recommend. You can also check out moving.com where I got this article. So I probably won't get to that second article, but I will at least link to it if I don't do another video on it. Consider hiring a specialist to help you. So that can be a care transition specialist. They help with downsizing. They do estate sales, move management, relocation services, and things like that. I know in our greater New Orleans area, there are some estate places that can help with that. They come in, they kind of advise on what's going to sell or what's not going to sell. You tell them what's for sale and what's not for sale, what you're going to keep, etc. They keep a percentage, so they basically they can host a sale, an estate sale for you. They keep a certain portion of the proceeds or what you um, gross from that, and then you'll keep some, they'll keep some. So if it's okay if you're okay with parting some of that profit for them doing the work, then that might be a good idea for you. Senior Move Specialists are certified professionals with the National Association of Senior Move Managers. So you can look that up. You can even click on that link in the article. Some tips for a smooth transition: create a familiar environment. We talked a little bit about that with the decor, with items that they'd be bringing over. Address emotional well-being. This would not be something to rush. A move is not just a lot of logistics and physical work, but it's mental work, it's emotional work. It's a transition, right? It's leaving something behind and then going to something new that may or may not be familiar. Consider safety modifications. The place where they're moving, it may already include that, or it may be something you have to do to the location where they are moving to, if they're moving to their own residence or moving in with you. Introduce them to the community, so help them find organizations and social activities and faith-based organization, church, non-fraternal organizations, things like that would be helpful in that transition. The Council on Aging, because most parish and/or county/county will have its own Council on Aging and senior organizations and whatnot. So I hope this has been helpful. I know some of it is common sense, but it's good to get a refresher on these things and also note that there's a checklist of things that you can to get your thoughts organized and your items organized as well. So there's plenty of other good tips at moving.com. It seems to be a lot of good free stuff. I'm sure there's some things that you might have to pay for, but it looks like most of it's free at this website, and lots of good checklists and things to think about. Even I even saw like how to pack a TV, like how do you package a TV to move? How do you package a refrigerator to move, etc. So I hope this is helpful, and I look forward to popping up on your screen in the future and in future caregiver coffees. So until then, thank you for watching and take care of yourself. Bye for now.